Harley's new plan just leaked, and it's not the victory speech they wanted you to hear. Behind the press statements and shiny photos, the real document paints a different picture. Deep cuts, tighter compliance, and a hard pivot toward survival. The company says it's about efficiency. Dealers say it's about finally building bikes people can afford again. But longtime riders, they're not sure who this plan is really for. Because if this blueprint holds, Harley could either rebuild its legacy or erase the last of its soul. In this video, we will break down the truth behind this leak, the cost math no one's talking about, and what it means for the riders who still believe the bar and shield should stand for backbone, not boutique branding. Quiet rebellion. Something unusual stirred out of Milwaukee this week, and for once it wasn't another round of bad news or another fancy press clip about future dreams. Instead, it was quiet, almost too quiet. The word came through dealer chatter, trade boards, and one confirmed call that Harley-Davidson's new helm was moving fast. Faster than anyone expected. The talk wasn't about chrome or design language. It was about cutting waste, steadying costs, and getting motorcycles back into the hands of working men again. The new boss hasn't been in the saddle long, but his tone already feels different. No sweeping speeches, no high-polished slogans. Instead, his blueprint sounds like what most riders have been begging for over the last 5 years. A focus on the real road, not the red carpet. Dealers who sat in those first meetings said he actually listened, asked questions, and talked about affordability like it mattered. The phrase he used most, according to one longtime shop owner, was value per mile. For guys like us, that means he's paying attention. Inside the factories, talk of cleaner operations started to surface. Not the environmental buzzword kind, but the real nuts and bolts type. Better sourcing, less scrap, more precision. Every move pointed toward lowering the cost to build without lowering the spirit of the machine. It's what Harley should have done 10 years ago. It's what riders kept telling them to do. If the cost per bike drops at the plant, it means one simple thing: the sticker might finally stop climbing. And yet, there's something else brewing behind this so-called pivot. Paperwork, the kind of paperwork that carries real legal weight. Because before any new blueprint can hit the factory floor, the rulebook came knocking on the door. But the first proof didn't come from speeches. It came from the government's own letterhead. Compliance isn't optional anymore. When the Environmental Protection Agency knocks, you answer. Harley-Davidson has learned that lesson the hard way more than once. Those consent decrees from years past still echo through the halls. And this week, another quiet tremor rolled through the company, renewed. Enforcement, tighter oversight, and a reminder that compliance is not a suggestion. For the shops, this hits close to home. No more Wild West tuning, no more quick fixes under the bench. The company is closing the loop between factory and dealership, making sure what leaves the line stays inside the rulebook. It's not about pleasing regulators, it's about survival. One misstep can now cost millions in fines and a year's worth of goodwill. For a brand already climbing out of a hole, that's a risk they can't take. So the plan is simple. Make the bikes run right from the start. That means cleaner burns, better fueling, tighter calibration, everything the rider needs without the off-limits hardware the government loves to find. It may sound sterile on paper, but on the street it means fewer inspection headaches and fewer back-and-forth battles at the service desk. For the veteran riders who just want to log miles, that's a welcome change. This new chapter of accountability isn't glamorous, but it's essential. It puts Harley back in control of its destiny instead of letting fines and recalls steer the ship. And with every bolt torqued to spec, the company buys itself time to focus on fixing the real issue, the price of ownership. Paper rules are one thing, but the math that happens inside the plant will decide whether this comeback holds. If you're a rider who still believes Harley should build for the people, not the boardroom, hit that like button and drop a comment with what Harley means to you. Price sanity starts on the line. Harley-Davidson's factories have always been shrines to American metal, but lately the echo inside those assembly halls has been the sound of excess. Too many trims, too many SKUs, and too many options that did little more than confuse the buyer and inflate the sticker. This week, that begins to change. Inside the new blueprint, one word stands out: efficiency. The company isn't chasing style, it's chasing precision. Shared hardware between models, leaner builds, and smoother logistics are now the tools of the trade. Every part that fits 2 bikes instead of 1 cuts cost. Every shipment that moves by truck instead of air saves dollars that don't have to be passed down to you. That's the clean pipeline the new management keeps talking about. Waste out, value in. Dealers who've seen the preliminary roadmap call it a return to logic. Instead of launching boutique trims with 5 paint codes and a pile of chrome, Harley wants to create a clear ladder, good, better, best. You pick your fit, you pay your price, and you ride. That's it. No more puzzle of options nobody asked for. This kind of factory sanity might not sound thrilling, but it's what keeps motorcycles moving off the lot instead of gathering dust under showroom lights. If the assembly lines run smarter, the cost per bike drops. And when that happens, riders win. But there's one question that still hangs in the air. Who's actually steering this new direction? And will they stay the course when the pressure rises? All of this depends on who's truly holding the handlebars at the top. And if you ride like you mean it, don't wait till the next headline. Check the description for the gear and accessories that keep the miles real. Who's steering the ship? Leadership changes are always messy, but this one came with a strange sense of relief. The new helm didn't arrive with Hollywood lights or a slogan tour. He stepped in with a checklist, a real one. His marching orders from the board were straightforward. Restore price sanity, simplify the lineup, rebuild trust with hometown shops, and keep the rulebook clean. That's it. The dealers call him the listener. After years of executives who seemed allergic to feedback, this man actually sat down and asked what was broken. He didn't talk about premium branding or lifestyle branding. He asked how many bikes each shop could realistically move if prices came back to earth. For the first time in a long time, the folks who sell the machines felt like their words might count. That attitude is spreading through the ranks. In York and Menomonee Falls, managers say morale lifted. It's cautious, but it's real. The talk isn't about chasing new tech, it's about getting back to what Harley built its name on. Strong steel, honest pricing, and a handshake worth something. The new chair seems to agree, backing a roadmap that aims to simplify instead of overreach. If they pull it off, small-town dealerships might survive, riders might finally afford to upgrade, and the company might find its footing again. But optimism alone won't pay the bills. Tariffs are still looming, supply chains are still fragile, and the next test is already on the horizon. Now comes the stress test. Tariffs, materials, and the world beyond Milwaukee's walls. Tariffs, the wallet tax. Tariffs are a word riders rarely think about until the sticker on a new Harley jumps by a few $1,000s. But behind every shiny tank and chrome fender, there's a hidden ledger of border costs and import shocks that shake prices before the first bike even reaches the showroom. This week, that invisible tax became too real. Harley-Davidson quietly pulled its yearly outlook, citing market uncertainty and unpredictable trade winds that could wreck even the cleanest balance sheet. Dealers call it policy whiplash. One week, supply lines look smooth. The next, an overseas tariff pushes costs through the roof. Each time that happens, the company scrambles to adjust production numbers, shift sourcing, or delay shipments entirely. In plain English, that's how your wallet ends up paying for politics. It's not greed, it's survival. When the raw steel, the aluminum castings, or even the tiny sensors on a modern V-twin cross multiple borders, every fee, tariff, and inspection adds weight to the final price. Tag. So the new direction is simple and overdue: bring production closer to home. Harley's planners are already eyeing nearshoring options and steadier North American suppliers that can absorb market shocks better than faraway factories. The goal isn't nationalism, it's predictability. A bike built with the local parts doesn't get stuck on a cargo ship, and its price doesn't swing every election cycle. For the average rider, that means fewer "it's delayed" phone calls from dealers and more predictable MSRPs when you finally walk into the showroom. If this plan holds, Harley can stabilize the pipeline, balance its costs, and bring honesty back to pricing. But price is only half the battle. The next test is whether the lineup itself still fits real riders, not showroom fantasies. Price is only half the story. The lineup has to fit real miles, not just catalog dreams. Cut the bloat, keep the soul. For too long, Harley's catalog read like a buffet of confusion. 10 versions of the same touring frame, endless chrome options, and limited runs that felt more like marketing stunts than motorcycles. It created eliminated what factory workers called dead weight, inventory that looked good in ads but sat in crates far longer than it should have. The new blueprint aims to fix that by cutting the excess without cutting the soul. On the line, managers now map shared parts across models, brackets, mounts, and harnesses that cut costs without cutting corners. Each common piece means cleaner builds and fairer prices, Harley's version of lean discipline. But lean isn't soulless. Designers are preserving long-haul fit, seat height, wind protection, all-day comfort. After 300 miles, riders should feel ready, not wrecked. Real windshield stay, real seats return, and flashy low-profile tires give way to safety and stamina. If this philosophy reaches the showroom, riders might finally get touring bikes built for distance, not fashion shows. Harley would stop selling image and start selling miles again. And when the lineup makes sense to riders, dealerships will finally be able to breathe again. If the bikes make sense for riders, the next breath of relief comes from the shops that sell them. Hometown shops. Off the hook for years, Harley's smaller dealers lived under crushing weight, inventory burdens, constant remodel mandates, and the never-ending pressure to meet corporate slot counts. Some family-run stores, passed down for generations, had to borrow just to keep up with showroom makeovers they never asked for. The result was predictable. The big city outlets survived, but the small-town Harley sign started disappearing from main streets across America. Insiders say Harley plans to ease showroom makeovers, loosen allocation control, and let dealers stock what locals actually ride. A small-town Kansas shop won't be forced to sell high-end baggers. It can order cruisers and tourers that work, not just sparkle. Without crushing financing plans, owners return to real relationships, knowing your name, remembering your trade, waving as you pass. That's the soul of Harley's network. Community before policy, people before Polish. If Harley keeps its word and gives these shops breathing room, local events, poker runs, and service nights might come roaring back. Riders could once again buy bikes from people who actually ride, and when those shops recover, the used market follows right behind. When hometown shops breathe again, the used market and the parts bins start moving in rhythm. Used prices, parts, paychecks. When the new bike prices get reasonable, everything else in the ecosystem resets. Used bikes stop inflating beyond reason, parts pipelines unclog, and mechanics finally get steady hours instead of seasonal scrambles. That's the real benefit of this factory-first shift. It stabilizes the entire ownership chain from plant to garage. Harley is reviving its factory rebuilt program so older models like a 2017 Road Glide can get certified engines instead of risky aftermarket swaps. It's cheaper, cleaner, and smarter. The accessory catalog's also being trimmed. Fewer gimmicks, more essentials like reliable bags, durable foot controls, and cross-generation parts that actually fit and last. Even the maintenance rhythm is changing. Longer service cadences, cleaner oil specs, and modular parts mean you can ride farther between visits without gambling reliability. It's not about making bikes disposable, it's about making ownership smarter. When parts flow smoothly and technicians have clear documentation, everyone in the chain wins, from the guy turning the wrench to the rider taking off at dawn. In the end, this isn't just about money, it's about pride. Riders keep their bikes longer because they can trust them. Shops keep staff longer because business is steady, and the company keeps credibility because it finally delivered on something it promised. Common sense. The spreadsheets might have sparked this change, but the people will decide whether it lasts. The next test won't come from boardrooms or balance sheets. It'll come from the people who build, sell, and ride these machines every day. The hands that build the steel. You can tell a lot about a company by the sound of its factory floor. For years, Harley's shop rhythm grew uneven. Too many temporary hires, too much turnover, and too little faith in the people behind the tools. But now, the new management's attention is turning to the crew itself. The fresh blueprint doesn't just mention cost cuts, it names training, safety, and skill building as the foundation for a steadier beat. The logic is simple. Hold the crew, and the rest falls into place. On the lines in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, new apprentices now train beside veterans who've mastered Harley steel for decades. That trust between generations, what the company calls craft, retention, means fewer mistakes and cleaner welds. Shop pride, once buried under quotas, is alive again. Managers say quality's humming steady, saving time and recalls. For riders, that means no rattles, no do-overs, just machines built by hands that still care. When the line runs steady, the product runs proud. And when that pride starts echoing through the workforce, it doesn't stop at the factory gate. It rides straight into the community. Transition. When the builders take pride, the next step is making sure the bikes they create are built for the miles that matter. Touring truth, not fashion. Ask any long-haul rider what matters most and you'll never hear low-profile tires or razor-cut fairings. They'll tell you about wind, weight, and seat comfort. They'll talk about how a good touring machine should carry them across 2 states without a sore back or a ringing ear. For too long, Harley chased showroom gloss, sleek lines, flashy accents, and trimmed-down silhouettes that looked great under lights, but punished you after 100 miles. The new playbook flips the script. Engineers now build for road stamina, not showroom flash. Test bikes feature thicker seats, balanced suspension, and tires made for endurance. Even trunk audio aims to last, not just blast. Riders who've tried prototypes call them settled, that perfect mix of wind balance and geometry. It's a return to real touring, tank-to-tank range, comfort that lasts, and machines you trust to finish every mile. When Harley builds for comfort first, reputation heals faster than any ad campaign. Because when word spreads that you can cross 2 states in a day without pain, the showroom takes care of itself. If the bikes earn comfort back on the road, the next battle is how the brand earns its respect back on Main Street. Main Street reputation repair. For years, the Bar and Shield turned from a working man's badge into a boutique trinket. It happened slowly, higher prices, smaller production runs, and marketing that spoke to luxury buyers instead of riders. What used to be the symbol of grit began to look like a status ornament, and that shift wounded Harley more than any recall ever could. But now the company seems ready to clean the badge and give it back to the people who built its name. The plan is simple. Build honest bikes at honest prices. No velvet ropes, no limited edition fluff. Dealers say leadership finally wants to sell motorcycles again, not lifestyles, and that's reigniting hope. Small-town shops are reviving rides and charity runs while riders once priced out are looking back. Older owners whisper, maybe it's time. Pride's returning to the brand's backbone, built by calloused hands, not corporate gloss. If Harley keeps walking this path, the Bar and Shield might stand for backbone again, not boutique ambition. But reputations don't heal in silence. Rivals are watching, and they won't let this comeback go unanswered. Rivals won't sit quiet. They're already tuning up their own engines for a counterpunch. When rivals blink, competition is the best mirror a company can face, and Harley's latest moves have caught a few reflections it didn't expect. Indian, Triumph, and Royal Enfield, all names steeped in heritage, have built their recent success on 2 things Harley forgot: affordability and familiarity. They sold simpler bikes that ran forever, at prices that didn't insult a man's paycheck. But with Harley's new focus on factory efficiency and fair pricing, those other badges are starting to look over their shoulders. Analysts say Indian is cutting excess to focus on core tourers, Triumph is rebuilding small-town networks, and Royal Enfield is eyeing higher-end finishes. The market's adjusting its mirrors because Milwaukee cleaned its own. For riders, this rivalry means sharper deals, stronger warranties, and real innovation. If Harley keeps its word, every other brand must match that authenticity, or risk losing riders who still believe value is built, not branded. But every mechanical battle eventually spills into policy and politics. The next fight won't be in the dealerships or on the highways, it'll be in the halls where tariffs, credits, and manufacturing laws are written. If you want the truth about where Harley's really headed, beyond the headlines and hype, subscribe now, because every week we uncover what the factories won't say out loud. Policy, tariffs, and favor. Politics may never build a motorcycle, but it sure can change how one gets priced. Over the past few years, Harley-Davidson has ridden through tariff whiplash like a storm. first punished for overseas production, then squeezed by shifting trade deals that made even bolts and bearings a gamble. This week, though, insiders say Milwaukee finally caught a bit of wind at its back. By emphasizing domestic production and factory efficiency, Harley is quietly earning regulatory goodwill in Washington and beyond. This isn't about headlines. It's a steady campaign proving American manufacturing still matters. Every retained job, funded apprenticeship, and cleaner process earns policy favor, buying Harley breathing room and steadier trade conditions. Lobbyists now push for long-term tariff stability to lock in fair pricing, ending years of unpredictable add-ons so dealers can quote straight prices and riders can finally buy without wondering what the next election will cost them. Predictable deals, fewer hidden add-ons. That's how real stability starts. Not with flashy slogans, but with cleaner paperwork and a steady policy hand. But policy is just theory. What happens next depends on labor, the men and women who turn that policy into practice. Labor's second wind. A good motorcycle company doesn't run on boardrooms, it runs on hands. Those hands weld, bolt, and test every mile of steel that rolls out of the factory. And for too long, those hands were tired, pushed hard, paid little, and told to move faster. Now there's a shift happening inside the walls of Harley's plants. Management has started linking thank you pay to safety targets and quality marks, not just production quotas. It's a small but powerful change, rewarding consistency instead of chaos. A quiet revival is underway. Skilled workers, once treated as replaceable, now mentor apprentices and stay longer, bringing pride and rhythm back to the floor. With steady crews, quality leads again, and the numbers finally settle. Dealers feel it too. Those painful slot delays fading as shipping smooths out. Bikes arrive on time, customers get what they ordered, and the system runs on trust instead of tension. If Harley can keep this second wind blowing, the workers win, the dealers win, and riders finally get dependable deliveries. It's proof that a strong factory crew is as valuable as any new model launch. But all that factory discipline and smoother output leads to one thing that riders feel first: the state of their own wallet and their miles ahead. Your wallet, your miles. Let's strip it down to what really matters. Every promise Harley makes, every policy shift, every new blueprint, it all comes down to this: what you pay and how long your bike lasts. And lately, the signs look better than they have in years. With leaner production and smarter sourcing, the company's sticker prices are flattening out. That's not a miracle. It's just math finally working for the rider instead of against him. Dealers say financing is finally simple. No hidden fees, no confusing bundles, just straight terms. Check lanes move faster, pricing's clear, and riders get exactly what they ordered. Parts flow smoother, service intervals stretch longer, and the components you need actually show up. The result is what old-school riders wanted all along: lower ownership costs, higher trust, and a company finally building machines that earn loyalty instead of demanding it. For guys who ride 5,000 or 6,000 miles a year and keep a bike until it's truly broken in, this shift means freedom. You buy the right bike once and keep it longer, not because you're stuck, but because it stays worth keeping. That's real value, the kind you can feel in your wallet and on the highway. But numbers alone don't define a company's soul. The real test is whether Harley can hold its true north between profit and pride. The new American balance. Every brand in this industry eventually faces the same crossroad: chase profit or protect pride. Harley-Davidson already learned what happens when you pick the wrong turn. They tried to dress up motorcycles as luxury goods, and in doing so, they nearly lost the soul that built them. But this week's developments show a shift, a course correction back toward true north. Clean books, clean builds, straight deals. That's what the blueprint now promises. What we're seeing isn't just a business shift, it's a reset for American motorcycling. Freedom and craftsmanship matter more than marketing gloss. Harley's remembering who it serves: riders who've logged 30,000 miles and still smell oil before coffee. If it listens, pays fair, and keeps prices real, it'll rebuild what no rival can. The feeling that the road, the steel, and the spirit still belong to us. You know, they said the Harley spirit was gone, but every time I talk to riders like you, I know it's still out there, in every dented tank and worn saddlebag. This new plan might save the company, or it might prove riders were right all along. If you still believe motorcycles should be built, not branded, hit that subscribe button like the video and drop your story below. What's the longest run you've done on your Harley, and what would you change if you could?